Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever, where today I'm going to be reviewing the newest EP from Big K.R.I.T, Trifecta. This is the third EP Big K.R.I.T has dropped this year, following the other couple EPs he's dropped over the past couple weeks. The Double Down EP came a couple weeks before this one, and the Thrice X EP came out a couple weeks before the Double Down EP. And as I predicted in my review of the last EP he dropped, I was predicting that there would be a third EP in this series, if you will, just based on the kind of countdown-like pattern that appeared through the EPs, and that turned out to be true. As you can see here, we have a new EP that we're talking about here today. One thing I do want to say before I actually start reviewing this new EP, my reviews for the two previous EPs are linked in the description down below if you want to check those out. But the short version of what I thought on both those EPs was that they were pretty solid projects overall. I don't think that they're some of Big K.R.I.T's best work necessarily, but they are enjoyable EPs for what they are, and I had a good time listening to them. And this new one here, Trifecta, is another pretty solid addition to Big K.R.I.T's discography. I do feel like this is the weakest of the three EPs that he's dropped this year, but not by some significant margin or anything like that. It's still a pretty solid project through and through. The opening on this track for the three has Big K.R.I.T doing some great rapping on here. I also really like the banging beat on this track. It pairs up rather nicely with Big K.R.I.T and his subject matter that he's talking about here on this track, as well as his delivery. Is overall a pretty solid opener to this EP, and probably my favorite track of the three that we get here on this project. The second track, 100, was a bit more of a personal track, kind of reflecting on this relationship that is somewhat falling apart. And it's more of a personal track in that regard. The beat is a bit more subdued as a result. It's a bit more of a slower, sadder, more introspective track, I guess you could say. And for that, it is pretty solid overall. I don't find myself super invested in the story being told here or anything along those lines, but it's still a solid track for what it's worth, and I do think that other people might be able to get more mileage out of this track than I do if you happen to find yourself more invested in the story being told. The third track on this thing, Energy, is another solid cut, I would say. I like Big K.R.I.T's rapping on this track once again. And the beat on here is probably my least favorite out of the three tracks, though it is still pretty solid through and through. It is just a bit more simplistic, I guess you could say, and I don't really care for it as much as a result. Not that it's bad by any means, it just didn't click with me quite as much as the other two, or work out quite as nicely when paired up with the subject matter or the song topic of the other two songs. But it still is a decent track overall. And like I said, I think that this is overall a pretty solid EP, but it just doesn't stand out to me nearly as much as the two previous EPs did. And in part, I think that's because these three EPs that Big K.R.I.T has dropped this year haven't been super different stylistically from one another. They've been pretty consistent in terms of their sound and style, and at this point it just kind of feels like we got a third one here that's, once again, just pretty solid overall, and I think Big K.R.I.T fans will get some enjoyment out of it. I just kind of wish, personally, that it did some things a little bit different. That, these three EPs he's dropped, if maybe each one had its own, sound to it or something along those lines, but instead they just kind of feel like more of the same when each one comes out. And that's not a terrible thing, considering that what we're getting on these three EPs is pretty solid overall. But, I just wish that they were a bit different from one another overall in the grand scheme of things. And I'm not sure if we're going to be getting any more content from Big K.R.I.T this year, another EP, another project of some kind. But whatever it is, if there is one, I hope that it maybe changes things up a bit more. Because like I said, this is a solid EP. Big K.R.I.T fans, hip-hop fans will find something to enjoy in this. But I don't think it's quite as good as the last two EPs or some of the best that Big K.R.I.T has done before. But yeah, it's a solid EP through and through. You could probably guess if you're going to like it based on whether or not you like the artist. And with that said, that is just my own personal review of this new EP from Big K.R.I.T, Trifecta. If you enjoyed this review, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel for more music-related content. Comment down below your thoughts on this EP and this trilogy of EPs we've gotten from Big K.R.I.T this year. At least, so far. Like I said, not sure if we're going to be getting anything else from him, but leave your thoughts on what we've gotten so far down below. Which one was your favorite, your least favorite songs from this trilogy, anything like that. I greatly appreciate seeing it down below. And make sure you do check out my reviews of those two previous EPs, linked in the description like I said before. Thank you for watching, and stay golden.